Hello, I'm an Apple, and I'm a Surface RT. Hey guys, this is RICKY, the Android guy, bringing another side-by-side comparison between the iPad Air and the Surface 2. Let's see which one is better and which one's better for you in terms of which categories. Now, I am the Android guy, and neither one of these are Android, so I will not be partial to either one. Let's just see which one is best for you. Now, when it comes to look and feel categories, what we have are two very different styles with these two tablets. With the iPad Air, we do have an updated version compared to the iPad from last year. Very light and thin compared to last year's iPad. Finally gave it that better look and better lightweight that iPads did not have for a while now compared to other tablets on the market. With this one, also you have that nicer style comparing to the Mini that was not available on last year's iPad, and it looks a lot better. The only thing that I really hate how fingerprint prone the Apple symbol is itself. Other than that though, very nice and really great for its size. The Surface, on the other hand, is a much different story. On this tablet, you have a couple of different things that you have to take in mind. One is its weight. It's one of the heavier tablets out there on the market, and you're not going to be holding it a lot. However, that's not too much of a problem because it does have a built-in kickstand, one for regular viewing and then back again for lap viewing. So really nice overall for that style that you have a built-in kickstand. Very nice, and that cannot be denied. But if you're going to be holding a tablet for a long period of time, the Surface didn't really change anything except for the color from last year's model. Other than that, nothing has really changed besides the kickstand. So for the look and feel, we have to give it to the iPad Air. Now, when it comes to web browsing, the first thing we always take a look at is the screen quality. On the iPad Air, we have a 2048 by 1536 pixel screen with a 264 pixels per inch, which is very good. Anything above 250 is going to be really good quality. In terms of good quality, you have to be above 200, which the Surface 2 is, coming in at a 920 by 1080 screen, so it is still a 1080p screen. But because the Surface is almost an inch bigger compared to the iPad Air, we have a 208 pixels per inch. Again, they're not bad screens by any means, but in terms of just beyond 1080p, that is one thing what the iPad does do that the Surface has not. Alright, and now we're going to load and see how these two devices do at web page loading. Now, important thing to note is this is a very heavy website, so we do expect it to take a little bit more time compared to other websites and how long they would take to load. Simply for the fact that we want to test out really how much that these two websites can do. And they almost finished simultaneously, at least when I looked, both were done. So both load very quickly on a web page, and both of their scrollings do pretty much a little of the same. This one goes a little bit faster, but not by much. And now let's check out the actual pinch to zoom. So I noticed pinch to zoom is not ideal on the Surface, so one important thing to note. Now let's try the double tap. Okay, so if you saw most of that, it's really going to be between the Surface and the iPad Air typically load pages around the same time. Sometimes the Surface has beat it in terms of web page loading. However, pinch to zoom is definitely going to be preferable on the iPad Air. You do have to give the Surface two more things. So one, double tap is quicker. And of course, the second thing is that you do have Adobe Flash able to run on here. So all Flash websites are applicable to you, giving you a much more desktop-like experience. So for that reason, I will give it to the Surface for overall better web browsing. Now, when it comes to music, the first thing we always take a look at is speaker placement. On the iPad Air, the speakers are on the bottom. There are stereo, but they come from one side, which gives you really mono kind of sound. Not to mention, if you are viewing it in landscape while, say, playing a game or watching a movie, they're a little bit easy to cover up at least one of them. On the Surface, they're more ideally placed on each side, giving you a full stereo sound. However, let's see how they actually produce sound. We're going to be playing both tablets, first the iPad Air, then the Surface, then back and forth. So let's try it.
The lights go on, they scream my name. The curtain scream my name. The curtain goes down, I remain the same. But all that money don't equal the price of fame. From LA to New York, Seattle to the Bay West. Getting late, yeah, I go down to Vegas. They know where we stay. Last show in Cali, headed down to the Staple. I was a boy with a dream, had my head in the clouds. Now I have my head in the clouds. Now I'm sleeping first class, got a bed in the clouds.
So hopefully you could hear that. There's just no contest whatsoever. The iPad Air has one of the best sound quality in speakers on tablets, whereas the Surface 2 has one of the worst sound quality on speakers. I really like a lot of things about the Surface, but speakers is just not one of them. Really poor quality. Now, when it comes to watching movies, the iPad Air is at a little bit of a disadvantage. That's for two reasons. One, the Surface 2 has a proper aspect ratio in 16:9, whereas the iPad has a 4:3, which means you cannot fill up your screen like you can so perfectly on the Surface tablet. The second thing is that the Surface obviously is almost an inch bigger, so watching should look better on the Surface, but does it? Let's check out and see how the videos play.
Come on, let's go. Good trade or bad trade?
Sounds desperate.
Sorry, man, the analyst says no. I gotta go.
The new Galaxy Note 10.1 allows you and everyone in your family to have separate user profiles on the same tablet. It keeps you logged into your favorite apps, keeping your personal files personal. It knows what you care about most, so everything you love is right there when you turn it on. Now featuring over $600 in added value,
So when we were seeing both tablets, both would display very nice screens, and neither one is that really a bad viewing watching experience. However, when we do watch on the iPad, I would say that overall you have a little bit more clarity at times with the Surface, but not only that, it just that aspect ratio and the bigger screen size just make it the better for watching movies, especially with the built-in kickstand. Okay, let's get one thing out of the way right away. The Surface camera sucks on the rear. It's just, there's no comparison between them. Clear, blurry. That's really what you're getting. It's just so much of a difference, it's not even comparable. However, the front camera on the Surface is actually better than the iPad Air, funny enough. It just, the tone reproduction is much better, it handles light distribution better, and I'd rather have this front camera on the rear because it's just so much better. I was shocked. So because on tablets we always tend to lean towards the rear camera, simply because typically when you use a camera you're going to go rear camera. Front cameras are really only streaming video. I mean, as I've said before, if you're taking selfies with a tablet, you should not own a tablet. So for that reason, the iPad Air will take the camera category, although the Surface, again, does have a really good front camera. Now when it comes to gaming, as you can probably guess, the iPad just wins it hands down. Although the Surface doesn't play any game particularly bad, it just doesn't feel like it's a gaming device. Unfortunately, their own Microsoft controllers don't work for it directly out of the box. You do have to set it up, but it will work eventually. The benefit of the iPad, though, is far exceeding in just the amount of games that you get. Game developers for the Surface are left with older versions for a lot longer, like they barely got Asphalt 8 after having Asphalt 7 on the top of their charts for a very long time. So all in all, you're just going to have a much better gaming experience with the iPad Air. Now when it comes to battery life, let's get one thing straight. Both these tablets have some of the best battery life in a 10-inch market. The iPad Air and the Surface both get you 10-hour battery life almost consistently every time. However, whereas the iPad Air does always get about 10 to even 11 hours, no matter really how you use it for the most part. The Surface is really going above and beyond that. The more and more I use it, it is maintaining closer to an 11-hour battery life consistently, and sometimes even performing at a 12-hour battery life. It really just does very well in terms of battery life, and it's one of the reasons I recommend it more than most laptops at this price point. So for that reason, the Surface will have the better battery life, although the iPad Air has a good battery life. Now, when it comes to extras between these two tablets, we first look at software, which they have some similar ones actually. On the iPad Air, you get Pages, Numbers, and Keynote. On the Surface 2, however, you get Microsoft Office, Word, PowerPoint, and Excel, and even Outlook. Between these two, although they are comparable, as you'll find out in any business scenario, Office is always the thing you want to have. It's just the standard, and it's maintained the standard throughout the business world no matter what. Secondly, however, you do have some extras that the iPad Air does not in hardware. On the Surface, you have 3 main point extras. First being micro SD for expandable memory. Second being a built-in kickstand for the purpose of having the kickstand built in. So what that gives you, of course, is not needing to necessarily buy a case just to prop your tablet up. And lastly, of course, you have a full-size USB, which does, of course, again, come in handy. This is really nice just for the fact that you can actually have plug-and-play hard drives, flash drives very easily on your device. So for this purpose, the Surface does take the extras category. Now finally, when we come to price point, we do see a difference in these two tablets. The iPad Air comes in at $499 for a 16 gig model. However, the Surface 2 comes in at $449 for a 32 gig model. Now it is important to note, however, that the Surface 2's OS is heavier compared to the iPad Air. So you are getting around 20 gigs of free storage, more than likely on the Surface, starting off around 22 possibly. I forgot what it was when I first got it. As where the iPad Air is giving you about, I believe 13 or 12 gigs, so a lot more built-in storage in comparison with what they originally come with. However, for the better price point, the Surface 2 is obviously going to give you more bang for your buck. You have 32 gig storage by default, as well as you also get a little bit more in terms of extras as well. So for the best bang for your buck, the Surface 2 will come in handy. Now let's tally them up and see who wins. When it comes to look and feel, the iPad Air takes it, just a newer design that the Surface 2 did not do from last year, and just much lighter. When it comes to web browsing, the Surface 2 takes it. Although they optimally are good both for web browsing, you're going to have a better experience with the Surface 2, seeing as how you can go to Adobe Flash websites and you could have 2 screens open at the same time. When it comes to music, the iPad Air definitely beats it. Just much better speaker quality. One of the worst things about the Surface 2 is the speakers. When it comes to watching movies, the Surface just takes it for a couple of reasons. 1, bigger screen. 2, aspect ratio fits the full screen size for video. And 3, the kickstand. The kickstand is really nice just because you can watch videos very easily propped up without any additional hardware. When it comes to the camera, the rear camera on the Surface just is horrible, and the iPad Air easily beats it. However, it is important to note that the front camera on the Surface was actually better, but overall we go with rear camera on the camera section, so it will be the iPad Air. When it comes to gaming, easily the iPad Air just has a much greater selection for games, and it's much better for gaming. When it comes to battery life will go to the Surface 2, just a longest battery life that I've used on a 10-inch tablet. Chloe is always closer to 11 to 12 hours. When it comes to extras, we will see this on the Surface as well, just having more extras such as kickstand, micro SD card, and full-size USB. When it comes to price point, the Surface again takes it at a $449 price point compared to a $499 price point of the iPad Air. So obviously you're going to get more bang for your buck. And by 1 point, the Surface 2 does win. Yes, if you want to get a tablet, the Surface 2 seems to be overall better for web browsing, watching movies, better battery life, more extras, and price point. However, you cannot deny the look and feel of the iPad Air, the music, the camera quality, and much better for gaming. So, depending on what you want to go for, choose which tablet you would like. Hopefully you found this helpful, and please give a like, thumbs up if you did. Thank you for watching. This has been RICKY, the Android Guy.